The Vrexian Death Squad had executed 17 species across 40 worlds. They wore armor forged from compressed neutron star material, carried plasma rifles that could vaporize reinforced bunkers, and moved with the cold efficiency of apex predators who had never known defeat. When they kicked in the door of the human outpost on Kepler 442b, they expected screams, chaos, the familiar symphony of terror that preceded extinction. Instead, they found two human cubs sitting at a table, surrounded by colorful squares of processed food. "Oh, hello," the smaller one said, looking up with enormous eyes. She had wild brown hair tied in uneven loops and couldn't have been more than 7 solar cycles old. "Are you here for lunch? We have extra sandwiches." Commander Thexrel froze. His tactical overlay identified the targets: Mira Chen, age 6, and Cale Morrison, age 8. Children. The intelligence had been accurate about the abandoned research station, but somehow failed to mention that humans had left their offspring behind. "Stand down," Thexeral growled to his unit through the comm. "Targets are juveniles." Kel, the older cub, pushed a chair out with his foot. "You can sit if you want. We made peanut butter and jelly. Mom says it's a Earth classic." He pronounced classic with the careful precision of someone who'd recently learned the word. The death squad stood motionless in the doorway, weapons still raised. In 400 cycles of service, Thexeral had never encountered this scenario. Vrexian protocol had procedures for resistance, for diplomacy, for suicide attacks. There was no protocol for hospitality. "Where are the adult humans?" Thexeral demanded, his translator rendering the words in flat, mechanical tones. "Evacuation shuttle left 3 days ago," Mira said, swinging her legs under the table. "But Mom and Dad are coming back. They said so. They said we'd be safer here because the bad guys—" She paused, looking at the armored soldiers with sudden concern. "Oh, are you the bad guys?" Cale elbowed her. "Mira, that's rude." "But they kicked in our door." "The door was stuck," Kyle explained to the soldiers reasonably. "It's been making that weird noise. You probably thought you had to kick it. It's okay, we're not mad." Thexral's second-in-command, Vorix, shifted uncomfortably. "Commander, orders." What were the orders? Eliminate human presence on Kepler 442b. Secure the research station. But these weren't soldiers. They weren't even adults. They were cubs. And they were offering food. "Why are you still here?" Thexral asked, lowering his weapon slightly. "Mom's a xenobiologist," Kyle said proudly. "Dad's an engineer. They had to go help with the colony ship repairs. But someone had to stay and feed the plants in Lab 3. They're very important plants. They might cure Vexian lung rot." "Vrexian," Thexeral corrected automatically. "That's what I said." Kyle grinned. "See, we're helping you already." Mira had climbed down from her chair and was now standing directly in front of Vorix, craning her neck to look up at his helmet. "Your armor is really shiny. Is it heavy?" "Mira, don't touch," Kale started, but she'd already reached out and knocked on Vorix's chest plate with her small knuckles. "Wow, what's it made of?" "Compressed neutronium," Vorix replied, almost despite himself. "That's so cool. Kale, did you hear? Neutronium, like from a neutron star." The death squad stood in the doorway for another long moment. Then Thexral made a decision that would haunt him, or perhaps define him, for the rest of his cycles. He deactivated his weapon and mag-locked it to his hip. "We will accept your hospitality," he said carefully. What followed was perhaps the strangest hour in Vrexian military history. The death squad sat awkwardly around the small table, while two human cubs explained the composition of sandwiches, demonstrated the proper technique for removing crusts, and asked approximately 700 questions about alien biology, weapons technology, and whether Vrexians had pets. "Our weapons are biolinked," Vorix explained, holding up his plasma rifle for Kale's inspection. "They only fire for registered users." "That's smart," Kyle said, nodding sagely. "Gun safety is important. Dad always says so." Mira had somehow convinced another soldier to remove his helmet. She was now studying his triple-hinged jaw with fascination. "Do you brush all 3 rows of teeth? That must take forever." And then, with the casual audacity that would later become legendary across 17 star systems, Kale said, "You know, you can't really shoot us." The room went silent. "Explain," Thexeral said quietly. Kale shrugged. "You're soldiers, right? Professional ones. And you follow rules. Humans do too. And one of the biggest rules, everywhere, for everyone, is that you don't hurt kids. It's like the one thing everyone agrees on. The Vrexian Empire has no such rule," Thexeral said. "Yeah, you do," Mira piped up. Cal found it in the research files. The Vrexian Honor Codes, Chapter 17, Subsection 9. No warrior shall bring harm to the defenseless young, for they carry the future of all species. The death squad exchanged glances. "You read our honor codes?" Thexeral asked. "We were bored," Cal admitted, "and Mom left her research terminal unlocked. Did you know you guys have really good poetry? That one about the 3 moons of Vrex Prime was beautiful." Something shifted in the room. Perhaps it was the absurdity of the situation. Perhaps it was the reminder that even warriors had codes. Or perhaps it was simply that these two small humans had shown them more trust in 1 hour than any species had offered in 400 cycles. "Commander," Vorik said quietly. "Orders?" Thexeral looked at Mira, who was now drawing pictures of the soldiers with colorful markers. He looked at Cal, who was carefully wrapping the remaining sandwiches in preservation film. He thought about the honor codes, written by his ancestors, which he had memorized as a youngling, but somewhere forgotten to feel. "New orders," Thexeral said. "Secure the perimeter. Establish defensive positions. No one threatens this station." "Sir, the cubs are under our protection now. When the humans return, they will find their offspring unharmed." He paused. "And tell the fleet command we found the station abandoned. Nothing of strategic value here." Cal looked up and smiled. "You're not the bad guys after all." "We are," Thexeral said quietly, "but perhaps not today." As the death squad took up protective positions around the outpost, Mira presented each soldier with a hand-drawn picture and a sandwich for later. Cal showed them the plants in Lab 3, explaining their importance with the earnest passion of someone who believed the universe was basically good, and people generally tried their best. When the human rescue ship arrived 2 days later, they found the most feared death squad in the galaxy, playing improvised games with 2 children and arguing about whose turn it was to read bedtime stories. The cubs had offered them sandwiches and taken their arms, not their weapons, but their willingness to use them against the innocent. Sometimes humanity's greatest weapon was simply being human.